about The Young Wife. I feel like it has several messages. So, I mean, we can start with the creator, the filmmaker.
Sure.
So, can you tell me about the messages that's covered in this film?
Yeah, I would say one message that's particularly important to me is that we really question what traditions we're choosing to follow and why. Like, I think it's really easy to watch this movie and come away and say, okay, this is a movie about like getting married. Like, I should definitely go get married. Or like, this is a movie about don't get married. Do not do it. It's gonna end in a divorce every single time. You could easily watch it and take away whatever version of that you want to. But honestly, it's just asking you to ask the question of if I want to get married, why? And if I don't, why? And if I'm doing this, then why? And just ask yourself, do I want to actively participate in this? And if so, then show up, like do it all the way. Don't do it in this like, oh my God, backhanded, like sarcastic way. Just like do it with your whole chest, like really show up, like get married if you want to. Have fun, like have a wedding, just do it. That's the message. If you're gonna do it, do it. But if you don't want to participate, just don't.
Yeah.
That's one message. The other message is climate change. And the other message is capitalism.
Yes, she said it all.
That's it.
I wouldn't like add, honestly, I don't know what else to add. Those are the messages. I think there's also, yeah, you're gonna definitely walk away asking yourself what it is to love somebody, and not just romantically, family and your friends, and what care is and what that looks like. And is it about how someone loves you or the love that you want to receive, and what your expectation of that should be? We've been talking boundaries apparently, which we didn't, I understand, but we didn't talk about boundaries when we were filming
But
because
it's like totally about boundaries.
right, or the lack thereof. But I think that's why we didn't talk about it, because no one had boundaries in the movie.
Yeah, it's almost like this is a movie about a character who's not allowed to express any boundaries, and she's just being forced to accept the lack of boundaries that people are putting on her.
Yes, but she's pretty outspoken, She keeps saying it's just a celebration. It's a celebration, and I really like that because I never really thought about it. Just a celebration of a relationship.
Yeah, I think that she shares her idea of what it is, but she also lets things happen. There's no world in which she puts everybody out and she shuts the door. That's all in her head when we see those moments stop. But she never actively does it. She never really, she doesn't tell anyone, this is what's happening, this is how I feel, this is how it's gonna go, now shut the fuck up. She still keeps her ear open. And we don't even really know by the end if she's still hearing people out or if she's gonna stop. She may not necessarily take what they say into consideration when she makes her choices, but I don't think she necessarily is really making sure that people hear her and apply it. She doesn't expect them to apply it.
Yeah. I almost feel like she like realizes that it's easier to ride the wave of all these other people's expectations than it is to go against the current of what they want her to do. Which in a way is like feels counterintuitive to our idea of like what a strong, independent young woman would do. Like, why would you ride the wave of what everybody expects from you? But it's like she's trying to figure out, or she's trying to experience if there's freedom in like giving in to that wave, if there can be freedom in that and what that could look like.
Talk to me about the filmmaking part. I love the introduction, how you're introducing the characters.
Yeah.
That's different. And then a lot of the camera work was very different. If the movement, can you talk to me how you came about? Because this is not your typical film.
No, it's really not. I'm really glad you brought that up. I think that like usually, particularly when we're watching movies about young women, first of all, but also about like young women in traditional roles, like becoming a wife or becoming a mother, or being somebody's daughter, like we tend to really focus in on like the story and the plot, and like A happens, B, then C, then D, on and on until Z. And it's like, and that is the life of the young woman, period. And with this, I really, really wanted to focus on portraying the emotional experience that these characters were going through, particularly Celestina, rather than like the literal story of their day, of her day unfolding. I wanted to focus on, or I wanted us to always be focused on capturing the emotional experience of being Celestina on this day. Yeah, and that's just like when that is your thesis, like when that is your ethos in the practice, and that's the focus of everybody who's making or telling this story, yeah, the final product is going to feel different, I think, than if we had gone in with the idea of we need to really nail down the plot of Celestina's wedding day and the plot of this relationship. It's very much an expressionistic film. It's very much about the emotion of what she's going through. And I think because of that, audiences honestly get to like let go and just like feel the waves of emotion, like give yourself permission to just feel these things and to feel to just feel things.
And also the dialogue. You had like it felt like you'd had several dialogue taking place.
Yeah.
What was
Like
your
there's
reason
many
for that?
layers.
Because
Yeah.
it's not always seen.
Well, I just, you know how when you're like sitting at a cafe outside on a busy corner, and if you like pause and you really pay attention, that cat is so cute behind. If you pause and you like really pay attention, you hear so much, like you hear so many different conversations, and you can like pick and choose what you focus in on. And so I feel like when one person is the center of everybody's attention, all of those conversations are suddenly turning their speakers at you, and you just have all of these conversations around you all day, and they are all of equal importance. So that's the reason for all those layers of dialogue. I think that Celestina's experience of the day, she really is tuned into all of these people. She's not tuning any of them out. She's not trying to filter them out except for in key moments. Otherwise, she's very much like accepting it. She is taking it. She is letting herself be washed over by all of these people, by her community, by her loved ones.
Was it easier? Were you able to get into character hearing this dialogue, these other dialogues taking place?
Yes, I think going back to the boundaries thing, I mean, one of the things I really loved when reading the script was that the arguments on both ends were so well written. I understood the argument that everyone was making, whether I agreed with it or not. And I think that's the thing about Celestina is that's why sometimes you don't put your foot down necessarily and have boundaries, because you get where the person's coming from. You just don't necessarily want to apply that ideology to like your own life and your own, choices. And so yeah, I also love overlapping and talking over people if that is, what the character is. I'm sure there are people who make movies that aren't going to like this, but I despise not being able to cut people off and talk over them. Like, I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to add it later. We're gonna have to fix it
We're just gonna have to get it later.
Yeah,
It's
because that's just
natural.
not, yes, that's not how life works, especially when it goes against a person who that character would be talking over people. You're taking away a big part of a person, We know people who talk over other people, and it's one of their traits, that we all have a feeling about.
Yeah.
And it just keeps also the energy alive, and you don't have to think so much about like losing the moment or keeping the moment. So yeah, I love when I'm allowed to do that.
In the film, there's this discussion about whether things just work out or we make it work out. So what's the idea for both of you in real life?
I think that sometimes things do work themselves out. I mean, unless you're talking about the instance of the partnership and, her planning the trip and her partner showing up thinking, look, everything worked out. And she's like, no, I worked it out. I made the reservations. I did the booking. I did the thing. But I think that in life in general, in the grand scheme of things, sometimes just based on like the roll-on effect, you get lucky and things work out for you. And then when they don't, you get to decide if you're going to make them work or not. And sometimes you also try to make them work and it just doesn't, and you got to let it go. It sucks, but
yeah, I think I'm one of those people who I'm not the person who plans the trips. So I'm always like,
I am
so nice. Everything worked out so well. It's amazing. I love it.
I'm planning.
Just like everything worked out. That's like all directors are. We show up and we're like, oh my God, it looks great. Good job, guys.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I think you just got to be prepared. That's all you can do. All you can do is like work on the stuff that you can work on and just be prepared. My mom told me when I was a kid, like, you just got to be ready for when luck comes, because if you want to be lucky, you'll be lucky. You just got to think of yourself as a lucky person. But if you just are constantly lucky, but you're not like ready for whatever you need to be ready in that moment, then it's useless. So I do think that I think if you prepare yourself for things to work out, then it's a lot easier for things to work out.
Well, thank you for your time. Congratulations on this film that's coming out this Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.